After several years in the making, the new High Plains American Indian Research Institute recently opened its doors for business. Known as HPAIRI, the institute aims to promote productive and positive relationships between the university and regional Native American communities. This includes research, education, and service. HPAIRI Associate Director Torivio Fodder went into more detail with Wyoming Signatures' Orlando Jacinto.
Dr. Fodder, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me. Glad to be on.
So, what is HIPRI? What is its mission, and why was it established?
Yeah, so the High Plains American Indian Research Institute is what HIPRI stands for. And we were established to facilitate research relationships between the tribes on the Wind River Indian Reservation and the University of Wyoming. It was the brainchild of the former Director of American Indian Studies, Judith Antel, and she saw the needs that were on the reservation in her capacity as the director, or former director of American Indian Studies. And she realized that all the human capital and access to scholars and experts we have here at the university, we could also take those and harness them and connect them with reservation communities that could really use some of the expertise.
What sort of expertise is needed in the reservation?
Yeah, well, it really varies. I mean, there are a lot of significant health issues, tons of expertise needed in terms of planning, management plans, questions about criminal justice. So it really runs the gamut. If you think about tribes as governments and you look at all the different factors that a local government would encounter in its day-to-day existence, it's the exact same thing for tribes. And so providing access to experts that can address some of those issues, it's really what HIPRI is all about.
What are some of the issues that are needed in that government, if we think about a tribe as a government?
Yeah, so one quick example is just access to experts who are knowledgeable about management plans. Oftentimes tribal leaders come from various backgrounds, and that's not to diminish them in any way or their ability to lead, but they may have come to tribal leadership through working for the federal government or on other occasions through the private sector. But really they may not have the expertise needed to create long-term systemic management plans for, say, things like water or agricultural land use planning, things like that. So they can come to HIPRI and connect with us, and then we can connect them with the experts here on campus that can help address their issues.
Okay. Is there a need for cultural sensitivity research amongst these experts?
Yeah, so one of the things that we really try to focus on, and one of the services we like to try to provide for the University of Wyoming community, is really just insight into how to work with some of these communities. So for example, there are certain tribal protocols that are best observed, or little quirks of the community that you should talk to one elder first and then go to other leaders in the tribe. And so given our relationships with the reservation, we try to connect people to those sort of idiosyncrasies and help them so that when they do approach the reservation, they can do it in a good way and in a way that respects their culture and can help to establish a good relationship from the very beginning.
Can you give me an example of cultural insensitivity?
Yeah, so one example might be if you're a young researcher and appearing before, say, a tribal council or a group of community members even. In a lot of traditional cultures, it's culturally appropriate to defer to elders and allow them to speak first, or allow them to share what knowledge and wisdom they have, and then sort of ease in or segue into questions or the whatever conversation topics on hand. And that's if you don't know that, I mean, the sort of mentality is you have a meeting and you get right to the point. With tribal communities, it's a little different. You don't have quite the same focus on economizing time or the same emphasis on just getting straight to the point. There's a bit more meandering. And if a researcher doesn't know that and they come onto the reservation and handle things per usual, it can be a real problem because you can, as a researcher, seem sort of abrasive or abrupt to tribal members when that might not be your intent at all. So things like that are what we mean by cultural appropriateness.
What can HIPRI give back to UW and the rest of the Wyoming community?
Yeah, well, that's one of the things we're really excited about. We're glad to be a service and a resource for things like cultural sensitivity. We're especially excited to be able to connect researchers with reservation folks and to facilitate those relationships, because it's just a fact that if you're not from a community, it can be difficult anyway to settle in and fit in and get acclimated. And that's particularly true when we're talking about tribal communities. And to the extent that we can help researchers conduct research in the right way and help them make connections with reservation folks, it's something we're really excited to do.
And any researcher can contact you. So undergraduate, graduates, faculty, and researchers of the Wyoming community can contact you as well?
Yeah, we've already begun working with a couple of graduate students. So we work with students and faculty alike, and we're glad to field queries from the community as well. So it's sort of an open shop for us, and we're glad to hear from anyone.
For some people, they might not understand why a sovereign nation like the Wind River Reservation would have issues with the University of Wyoming. Can you say some of the particular issues that surround that relationship?
Yeah, and it's not unique to the University of Wyoming, but what we use the term extractive research. And what that is scholars or people associated with the university, not just UW, but universities in general, will come onto the reservation and they'll have a great idea maybe for things like diabetes research or things like other health issues, for lack of a better term. And they'll come on and they'll conduct their research and they'll find a lot of things that would be relevant to the community. And then they take that research and they publish it in an article, as an academic does. And they don't necessarily have not wherewithal, but the thought process to share that information with the community that they conducted research in. And so that's what we mean by extractive research. Scholars coming in, taking the research out, and then the community doesn't benefit from it. So what we really hope to do is turn the page on all of that. And through HIPRI, when scholars and researchers work with us, we hope that there'll be an opportunity for them to actually give something back to the community that they're working in. And for the projects that we have off the ground now, that's really the whole intent.
Can you give us an idea of what projects you're working on right now?
Yeah, well, one that's really exciting to us, Professor Rebecca Karen in the nursing department, she's begun research on some women's health issues. And the particulars are beyond my background in law, but she has a great research model set up. And the point of her research is really to give back to the community this information so that they can take it and do preventative screening, preventative health practices. She's really worked with us quite closely in terms of following the appropriate protocol, meeting with the appropriate leaders and things like that. So she's a great example of someone who's really concerned, really wants to do research in a culturally appropriate way, and it has really stepped out as a leader on this kind of research. So we're really proud of the work she's doing.
Can you give us an idea, or can you give our public where they could find more information about the High Plains American Indian Research Institute? Yeah,
well, we have a website, www.uwyo.edu/HIPRI, our acronym. You can go on there and read about our faculty. We have some news and current events. So for example, we just had a big opening lecture featuring Walter Echohawk a little less than a month ago. And it's really exciting to have brought him to campus and that kind of thing. So we post the latest news and current events. You can check that all out on the website.
Great. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Yeah, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.